Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of KashCraft. My name is KashMuney and this is episode 28. Last episode we got ourselves a happy ghast right there and we built ourselves a very nice hot air balloon to go with our circus. But today we're going to be working inside the circus, and actually the fact I'm standing on this tall pillar of oars has something to do with that. But before I explain what we're doing today, let me mind this up real quick. Not bad at all. But anyways, today we are going to be finally doing the main interior of the circus. We have the room when you first walk in with all the performers. We're gonna have some acts, some stands. By the time we're done, this is gonna be feeling so much more complete. But between episodes, I've been putting together materials to build our circus interior, just a ton of wood and a lot of stone. Yeah, this is gonna be a very resource intensive build. Get ready for another chest monster. Even though we cleaned up our chest monsters last episode, they're coming back. Okay, so let's go through the plan for how we're gonna do this. So there's a lot of different things we're going to add. So first of all, I want to add a second curtain on the other side just to really solidify this as its own room. But then we are going to add some lights to this. The tent is really dark and we need some lights lighting up the top and some lights hanging down just as a nice atmospheric piece. And then we're going to do our floor. This is going to be where all the performers, perform, and we'll have some nice stands kind of around the perimeter of here. After that, it's just little details and we will have our space done. It's crazy we are finally doing this main part. I mean, the circus has been empty for a long time, especially this middle tent. But anyways, I think the best way to start this is just to dive right in. So without further ado, let's get started with our circus interior. So to start us off, we have to do the curtain. We really just want to separate the two rooms, and for that we're going to do something very similar to what we have here. We're going to open the curtain a little bit more just to show that, like, oh, this is more inviting, more open. That would be perfect. But I am going to be using the happy ghast's help for this. I have some night vision potions because that's just going to make our lives a little bit easier. So I really just want to make sure that I place these blocks in the right spot. That way we have some symmetry. So this is where our bar is going to go. I don't know why, but placing the first blocks just feels like so nerve-wracking. Sort of the point of no return. Like I'm committing to creating this. Okay, so that's the dimensions of what I want. I need to figure out how big I want this curtain to be. I don't want to make it like super open, but it needs to be open enough. So let me just try some experimenting. And we're just using dirt to get a general shape I like. I don't want to commit to anything just yet. I like something about that size. It's wider than this one and makes this feel a bit more inviting, but it's not too big. I want the curtain to be small enough so that when you actually walk into the circus, you don't immediately look over here. It's a good divider between these two rooms, and I think that's a good size for it. So from there, it's just about replicating this fabric material over here, which, I mean, I've done this once before. I'm sure I can do it again, right? Perfect, there's half of it. Let's do the other half. I literally just finished the curtain right there and a creeper drops down. Okay, that would have been sad if the scene had blown up, but we have both sides done. So now, yeah, we can take these blocks and color this thing in real quick. So to color this thing, it's basically just replacing every single dirt block with some sort of red block. We have a bit of a gradient going on. As you can see over here, we have some netherrack and then some stripped mangrove and then some mangrove planks. We're just trying to give this curtain a bit of depth and texture. Yeah, just like that. We have the netherrack in the darker parts towards the bottom, some of the mangrove for the majority of it, and I really like how the mangrove wood has these like lines between. It kind of helps with that like kind of ruffly curtain look we're going for, which I like. And then we have our mangrove planks to really highlight it. Nice and simple, but looks amazing. Okay, let's do it again. And there we go. I am loving it. That is so cool. It adds so much more life to this. If you want to know how long it took me to make that, it was 7-8 minute potions. So I'll let you do the math. With our other curtain, we have these little like banners right here, just kind of hanging from this wooden beam. So we need to add some of those. And also, I don't like this big gap right here. It just feels a bit too empty, so I think we add like a bigger version of this just right here, and I think that's going to really help it. Okay, I think I have a plan for the center one. At least I hope I do. We start with a nice red nether brick look, and we do something unexpected by putting regular nether brick behind it. Yeah, and that way we get something that looks like this. And then we're going to add our smaller little banner things. Where are all these mobs coming from? I genuinely don't know, because I just lit everything up. Like, what? Okay, and there we go. I changed up the design a bit. I added just a little bit right here so it's not so empty. And I made the centerpiece a little bit smaller to reflect what's over here. Now we just need to add these like decorative bits at the top. Like we need to add the little elephant and then like the starry night sort of thing. And instead of a blue sort of look, we're going to go for an orange. Why orange, you may ask? Why not? Orange is a good color anyway, and it will be really fun. Oh yeah, that's a good background. Also, I've created this elephant so many times at this point, you think I would know how to make it by heart, but I do not. And I always forget important blocks. Bam, 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 boom, and boom. Okay, maybe I know how to build this somewhat, but I think that's the elephant. Yeah, look at that. Oh, I love the orange. Okay, and then it's about doing the starry night background, which means a ton of spruce wood. And lastly, we get to add our little stars. That is so cute. I love this curtain. It goes so well with this one. And we finally have our main room sectioned off, so we can actually start working on some of the details in here. We do need to add our supports to the inside of the circus. I was just going to do some dark oak pillars, just supporting like along here. That way we actually get something that doesn't look like it's just floating, which last time I did this, I needed an unhealthy amount of scaffolding. So we'll see if that's the case this time. So I can confirm that an unhealthy amount of scaffolding is needed to make this ring, but it's looking really good. But I am going to go ahead and cover up these frames that we can normally see from the outside. They just don't look great inside, especially like over there. I'll just place a couple blocks and hide them away. And like many things with the circus, we're going to build the same thing on the other side. And there we go, we have our supports in, which just make our circus feel that much more stabilized, that much more realistic. So with the walls of our main room generally set up, we can turn to the floor. Obviously, we can't just have a grass floor. We need to make this cool. This is honestly my favorite thing I've designed for the circus so far, so I am super excited for it. This is meant to be where the performers are going to be, so we need to make sure it's in tip-top shape. I think it's going to be like a giant circle, but anyways, let's get building and roll that time lapse. Wow, that was a build. That floor was one of the more difficult ones I've made. It was a gradient from like black to gray with like 10 different blocks. And let me tell you, building a gradient with 10 blocks is hard, but building it in a circle is even harder. Like I have to make sure like, oh, you know, all this black concrete transitions away at about the right time. Everything's very spread out and it's hard to keep track of everything, but this looks so cool. The point of it is to draw the viewer's eye to the center. Once we get rid of these torches, it's going to be very dark in the center and lighter towards the edges. And that helps the audience wonder, oh, what's going on in there? What secrets are they hiding? It creates some excitement for what's going to come, like when one of the spotlights turns on and you can actually see like the performers. I will have some ways to light up this floor later, but for now we're just keeping torches so we don't have any mobs spawn here. On a less interesting note, we need to add the floor for the rest of this area. It can't all be this really cool design. We're gonna have dirt along the edges just showing, oh, the circus tent has been placed down on here and that's kind of killed away the grass and left behind the dirt. Even then, we're gonna have a pretty decent gradient on blocks, so we should get started on that. The good thing is this gradient doesn't need to look too perfect. We can have some mistakes here and there. Though I think by the end of this, I'm going to be all gradient out. When working on my gradients, I have a general process I like to follow that makes it a little bit easier because it is hard to come up with something that, you know, looks good and accomplishes what the feeling you wanted. But for me, I first consider the overall project, like the theme. Like, is this something that needs to really pop, like this right here? Or is it something that's going to stick in, really show like the age of the environment? But once figuring out the vibe I want, I select the blocks I'm going to use. For something that pops, I'm going to do an aggressive gradient like this. Like we have so many different colors, whereas something more quiet like this dirt right here is going to be much calmer. And once I have my blocks selected, it's really just about gathering them up, which can take a while sometimes. But then it's just about placing the blocks. I try to follow like a general layers like we have a lighter layer, a middle layer, and a darker layer, but it doesn't always turn out like that. I often like to have some parts where like one gradient kind of peaks into another. Like right here we have this medium gradient kind of peeking into the lighter parts, and the opposite. There's not really like a right answer. You just want something that is going to have that kind of gradient effect going from light to dark that we're going for. For this particular gradient with the floor, I wanted something to feel like this circus is being well used. Like the plants that were here before the circus are, you know, gone. The dirt is very dusty. Having the darker gradient also helps with some of the lighting aspects. Like you're not going to get as much light in the corners compared to some of the middle parts. It's a lot to keep in mind, but as long as I have like a general plan of what I'm doing, I can figure it out and make something that looks pretty good. This gradient in particular is a tool to let me illustrate how the circus is being used, what sections of the circus people find most interesting, what they like exploring. It's really these small details that help the circus go from good to great. Do you ever feel like your brain hurts? Because I feel like mine does right now, especially after doing all these gradients. But we got it done and it looks so good. That was a lot of gradients today, but we are making some awesome progress towards getting this thing done. We can move on to the next part. I need to make these stands for our circus. We need a place for the audience to sit, and I'll be honest, this is the part I have been most worried about. I have spent like a couple hours trying to figure out a design for these, and I think I have one that works, but we'll just have to try it out, I guess. I mean, even after spending so much time working on a design, it's honestly going to be a lot of winging it. Make it look like these stands are old and are constantly being set up and torn down for each new circus performance. They get the job done, but are by no means fancy. So we can get our wooden stand shape, and then we're going to add our seats. Of course, we're going to theme them red and white for our circus. And I have to say, trapdoors and signs are amazing for this sort of application, except this area looks really dark. I need to light it up somehow. And you know what? I don't mind it kind of dark. Like, it's not like mob spawnable. Like, if we just check, it's like level 7, which is not bad. And we have a little torch in the back, which I think is great. It looks like we have a little light kind of shining up behind it, and that helps light up the wall, which is really cool. So you know what? I think we're going to stick with this. So yeah, this is the design we're going for our stands. Now we really just need to copy it a bunch more times around here. Oh, I almost forgot. We need to add the back support to our stands. Otherwise, people could just like fall backwards, which we probably don't want that. There we go. It just adds a touch of like finality to this. Okay, now let's copy this a bunch of times. There is our second set of stands, the white set. And if we go up here, we even added a little spotlight in the back. There's our third set, number 4, which makes us halfway done. But also I'm out of mangrove wood and pale oak because, shocker, trapdoors and signs are expensive to make, so I need to go harvest some. There's number 5, number 6, number 7, and there is our last stand, and we have them all in. They're very simple, like they don't like really pop. When building something like a circus, obviously I want it to be marvelous. I want it to be exciting, something very inviting for the audience. But to do that, we need to have things that pop. And to have things that pop, you need things that don't pop. And these stands are colorful and fun, but they don't pop. And honestly, same with this floor. It's not bright colors. It just kind of blends in and adds to the overall vibe. But really, it's going to be the tallness of the tent, the two sides that really give it some detail and some focus of attention. So a lot of the details we're adding right now are just details. They aren't going to draw your attention, but they help the important details really pop, which is what we need. And I do think it would look nice if we just add some like trapdoors flanking each side of the stands just to make it feel a bit more official. And that way it just doesn't like randomly cut off into like a weird hanging staircase. And while we're doing that, we should probably add some supports to the back of our stands, just, you know, make them respect the laws of physics and gravity and whatnot. And there we go. Our stands just feel a bit more complete. Okay, so they turned out great, and we have our floor and walls done, but we need to still do our ceiling. We can't just have a dark bare ceiling, so let's get working on that. And this is where our happy gas comes in again. The main purpose of doing the ceiling is A, to light it up, and B, just to add something to make it look a bit more interesting. We don't want people to walk in and just have like a bare ceiling. It just feels unfinished. So having just a little bit of detail is going to make this feel a lot more fun. We're going to have this dark oak ring be where we suspend our ropes that kind of go up the sides of the tent. And as for the side ropes, it's just going to be a lot of spruce fences going up and creating a bit of a drooping rope where we're going to hang lights from. And yeah, we get something like this, just a nice simple rope connecting the lower ring to the upper ring. And now we just get to texture it a little bit. I am just going to add some extra details, some oak fences to break up the monotony of the spruce, maybe add some like iron bars and stuff hanging down. I definitely want a couple lanterns. And I also just realized if we're going to be doing lighting, I should probably get rid of the night vision, which I have for 5 more minutes. We'll texture this without the lanterns, and then we'll come back and add some. And when we're placing our lights, we don't want them too close to the surface of the tent. Like we have here, we want something a little bit further down. That way we get this kind of diffuse, warm lighting. There we go, something like that. And now we just need to add our diagonal strings, which honestly is so much harder than the straight. You have to consider how the rope is going to move in 2 directions instead of 1, and it just moves very weirdly. But if you can do it right, it looks really good. Yeah, look at that. It looks like one of the straight ropes, but on a diagonal. Now we just gotta texture these diagonal ropes. And lastly, we can add our lanterns. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much those lights transform the space. Now when you walk in, you actually want to look up and just see how magnificent this is. Like, this looks so fancy. It feels perfectly imperfect and helps the tent look like fabric, look like something that's free-flowing and moving, and this is the shape it's assumed. I actually can't believe how good this looks. That one small change did so much. We do need to add our center pillar to hold up the entire tent. It doesn't make sense if we just have all this fabric flowing up top, but nothing actually supporting it. Perfect. And then for our last detail, we're going to add a spotlight. We need our ringleader to have a space to, you know, introduce the circus and project everybody in the audience. So we need a little spotlight for our ringleader to stand in. So I'm going to use a trick I saw Impulse SV do. I believe this was for his Season 9 Hermitcraft base, and I've always wanted to do this with a build, so finally I get to do it and I am so excited. Basically, we use a fancy yellow gradient to create this sort of spotlight effect, going from like a bright white orange to a sort of bright yellow, and then a slightly duller yellow, and then a more muted yellow, and our most muted yellow with the Gilded Blackstone, which don't ask me how long it took me to get it. It was a while. But yeah, look at that. It looks like we have a giant spotlight just beaming down and illustrating this one spot. And it really helps when we get rid of the extra torches and really just let that spot shine and the darkness surrounding it. Yeah, look at that. The spot really just pops and really draws your attention. And of course, we're going to have a little spotlight up at the top, and we're going to use some glass and some end rods to make it look like we have a beam shooting down onto the spot. Really sell the look we're going for. And there we go. We have our nice little spotlight beaming down and creating a spot for our ringleader. I really like these little glass panes and what are these end rods. You can really see the beam of light coming down from the spotlight, which is really cool. And as I was talking about, we need boring details so we can have the cool detail shine, and this is definitely a cool detail. But overall, I love how this room turned out. It feels circusy. It feels like we did it justice. We have a place for the audience to go, for the performers to perform. It's not too dark, it's not too light. All the details just really emphasize this marvelous feeling we're going for. I am loving how the circus tent is turning out. We're not quite done with this room. I still need to add a couple more details. I want to add an act in here, maybe some extra details. I need to work on the sliding a little bit. It's not perfect yet, but otherwise this room is pretty close to being done. We put a ton of time into the circus tent, but genuinely it is turning out so well. It is my favorite build I've ever made, and we're not even done, so there is much more to come. Of course, we have to do our frame for today. Here's our little frame for today, a nice rendition of our circus interior with our spotlights, some stands, and the circus tent. But everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.